你们好，正好喝开。我挑开了，这是为了欢迎来卑尔根。这是一个关于游客在卑尔根体验介绍。We have prepared a little presentation for you, and now we are ready to show you around in the city.
Bergen is one of the most popular places to visit as a tourist in Norway. It is a really beautiful city to visit for young couples because it's peaceful and you have several things to do. Bergen is also a city on UNESCO's World Heritage List, or but Bergen is pretty much the heart of Bergen. Bergen is also surrounded by 7 mountains, as you can see on a map. There's lots of activities to do for tourists, close to nature, and the gateway for the fjords. Bergen is a city for big events, for example the tall ship race, which was held in Bergen this year, and is also a UNESCO city of gastronomy. And we think you're gonna love your stay here in Bergen.
Before we take you to what activities you can do, attractions, sites and restaurants, we want to introduce you to the culture in Norway. Much of the culture in Norway can be traced all the way back to the Vikings. In Norway, we do have a lot of nature, and skiing is an important part of the society in Norway. It says that Norwegians are born with skis on their feet because of the amount of people who like to ski. The Norwegian culture can be split into 2 parts, the traditional one and the daily one. The traditional concludes the stereotypical Norwegian tradition, such as food, feasts, art based on Norwegian culture, but also the fjords and the mountains, which are really important. The daily culture concludes the different norms each of one has, such as phones addiction among young people. But let's talk about traditional Norwegian society, which is more important than the daily culture. Food and cuisine's Norwegian's food culture is heavy on seafood, but the most typical food is brown cheese, eaten with bread. Other popular cornerstones are cured or smoked salmon, well steak, and fiskepudden. Culinary food experience is important for most tourists. For example, the brown cheese, something lots of tourists take with them at home. Folklore and Viking myths has been inhabited by a number of different nomadic cultures for many centuries, so folklore is well established and plays a big role in its mother culture and heritage. Legends include reference to trolls, elves, witches and other non-human characters alongside human heroes and heroines.
The traditional national costume of Norway is called bunad, an elaborate costume dating back to the 1800s with a lot of embroidery and jewelry. There are approximately 200 regional variations, and there's a Viking influence on most traditional Norwegian clothing. Both men and women own these peasant costumes. It is a part of Norwegian culture to wear the bunad as the Norwegian folk dress for folk dancing and official celebrations, weddings, and especially on May 17, which is Constitution Day in Norway. Since you're from China, let's talk a little bit about the culture in China. China's history is over 5,000 years old, and it's based on a lot of their dynasties such as Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, and Ling dynasty. Wanli Changcheng, which is the Chinese Great Wall, has also a lot of history in it, which now has become a part of China's culture. This is because the Great Wall has a lot to do with their dynasties, especially Ming dynasty. Chinese culture is one of the oldest civilizations, and the Chinese New Year, the Chinese Spring Festival, and the Mid-Autumn Festival is one of the most important traditions in China. A fun fact, all these events are actually on a different date each year, which compared to Norway is different because in Norway everything is on the same date every year.
We were informed that you guys like it more quieter and not surrounded by big groups such as tourist groups, which we think is now a good opportunity for us to introduce you to the Norwegian nature, some activities you can do, and some sights you can see.
Bergen is surrounded by nature, either if you're on Mount Flyen, on Ulriken or somewhere else. In Norway, we got something called Allemannsretten, which in English is the right to roam. This means you're allowed to be in the wild nature all over Norway, that includes Bergen. You can, for example, pitch a tent wherever you want, unless anything else is stated at a specific area, or eat outdoor and so on. As long as you make sure that you leave no trace behind and you don't do any damage to the nature, which in other words mean don't leave anything but footprints behind you. You're allowed to be in the wild nature. If you're gonna sleep in the nature and you're staying there for more than 2 nights, make sure to remember that you have to get the owner's permission first. As you might already know, Bergen is in between 7 mountains. Mount Flyen is the most popular mountain to visit for tourists, both because it's easy to get there and because you get a great view almost all over Bergen. You can either walk up or take the floor by and up, and that in itself will be a great experience and you're always going to remember on your trip to Norway. In addition to a great view on Mount Flyen, you can walk through the forest up there, go for a longer walk and enjoy the calm and quiet nature around you.
Because you're here in November and not during the summer, there are some activities that aren't available, such as kayaking and Mount Flyen. But there are still some things to see.
You can, for example, walk up Flyen when it's dark outside or at night, which gives you an incredible view all over Bergen, and you can take beautiful pictures as well as you can see Ulriken getting all colorful.
We heard that you guys would love to eat fish here in Bergen, and well, we have the perfect recommendation for you. First of all, behind us is the fish market in Bergen, which is a must-do experience in Bergen, but we will come back to it later in this presentation.
You could try out the so-called seafood experience with a boat trip and dinner at Cornelius Seafood Restaurant. Bergen is the gateway to the fjords, which is something tourists just have to experience on a trip to Norway. This trip gives you both a great view over the fjords because you can get picked up by a private boat, as well as a fish experience. This trip is highly recommended and rated from other tourists, so it wouldn't harm to check it out.
Another way for sightseeing is the subway tour all over Bergen. You can ride the subway to Bontelevo, and a place we recommend you to go is Old Bergen. You can easily get there with the subway and it takes approximately 15 minutes. There are beautiful views and also you can feed the pigeons, which is kind of normal thing to do when you visit Old Bergen. You can also use the subway to say all over Bergen, which will be an amazing opportunity to go from one place to another without using a really long time or other public transportation.
If you're traveling on your honeymoon and want to spend as much time together as possible, there are some places we would recommend you to do so that you can spend time together.
The first one will be Bryggen, one of the main attractions in both Norway and Bergen, and it was built right after the fire in 1702. It is composed by the very first buildings in the city, and it is a part of the UNESCO's World Heritage List and is an amazing place to take beautiful pictures. The very first buildings in Bergen were situated at Bryggen, which has been a vibrant and important area of the city for many centuries.
Our second recommendation is the fish market. Is it part of Bergen's soul since in memorial times? Is located at the heart of the city and it's an important social point. At it you can buy fish and seafood, really typical from Norway, or other things such as fruits, vegetables and flowers. We know that you don't like quiet museums or boring things, so a suggestion from us is to visit Bergen Aquarium. Is it a fun place? Lots to see, pictures to take, and a perfect and romantic place to spend time together. And it's not boring at all. You could also go to Bilbite, the Science Museum, where you can explore and discover all the fun things by yourself. It's a really interesting place and you will leave with a wonderful experience.
There are plenty of places to eat in Bergen, whether it's fast food or healthy.
26 North Restaurant and Social Club is a restaurant inspired by the Nordic countries, their nature, culinary treasures and designs. The chef has been inspired by the ingredients found in the fjords, farms and forests of Norway and created a Nordic and unique menu that will trigger your taste buds, and which also would be a perfect place to eat if you want to taste real Norwegian food. This is a place which is highly recommended because of its service and fast food. Kolonial is another restaurant in the city of Bergen. Kolonial serves elegant food and in a relaxed and comfortable atmosphere. Their menu is inspired by traditional Norwegian cuisines combined with their international impulses. They also get their products from local farmers and producers and seek inspiration in the seasonal produce.
The restaurant we recommend you out of personal experience is the Skywrapper restaurant on Ulriken. You can eat outside or inside, but still enjoy the great view over Bergen. In the evening, the restaurant transformed itself into a popular gourmet restaurant with a modern and exciting menu concept based on local, sustainable and short-lived quality ingredients. Their chef serves delicious flavors based on the best local ingredients of its season.
Now you are gonna learn two common phrases in Norwegian. When you're done with the food, you say "Kan jeg få regningen?", which means "Can I please pay?" Also, you can say "Takk for maten", which means "Thanks for the food", which is a common thing we say in Norway.
Bergen is surrounded by bars and pubs, and near Bergen there's a lot of them, so you can walk from one to the other one in less than a minute and have the opportunity to see more than just one.
And none of us are old enough to go into pubs and bars, but we still have some recommendations for you.
Skippersturen is a pub most tourists like, probably because of their karaoke nights. Skippersturen is also one of Bergen's oldest pubs, where you can experience an unaffected and vibrant place where people gather over a beer to the live music and good atmosphere. There is also a beer garden with heating lamps. There is one pub which is rated as Norway's Best Bar 2015, called No Stress. No Stress is an absolute must on a late night tour of the city of Bergen. Priding themselves on their extensive and creative cocktail menu, No Stress is concerned with sourcing their own ingredients, making everything from scratch and, as the name says, providing a laid-back, non-stressful environment.
Since you're traveling to Norway and we're colleagues with the Norwegians for some days, we thought it would be helpful to give you some tips about life here.
Norwegians are shy at the beginning, so if they don't know you, probably they won't be open with you, but that doesn't mean they aren't nice, because if you ever have a problem or a question, everybody will be happy to help you.
And while for a date, Norwegians are always correct and polite. When they go to drink, they like to drink much, and sometimes they might go a little bit crazy.
The locals love to do a sport, running around the city, walking through the forest, or training at the gyms. So you will see a lot of people exercising all the time.
And in Norway, most of the bathrooms at the places are locked, and usually the code comes on the bill. But if not, you just ask them polite, and they will give you the code.
The culture here is quite silent, so that's the reason why Norwegians don't like to be loud in public. So you should be careful with raising your voice.
And at this time of the year, our streets are normally pretty iced, and even we have to put salt on them, so you can always fall down. So watch your feet. So this was what we would recommend you to do in Norway, as well as you know a little bit more about the culture and our nature. Just a few last words to end this presentation. The places you visit is home for other people like us who live and work there. How would you want visitors in your own home to behave? When you are the host, it's a great show to show off what you have, but you hope that they clean after themselves and take in only good memories and not things from your own heritage.
This is called sustainable tourism. You get the opportunity to travel somewhere, but you don't ruin the opportunity for future generations to do the same. Here are some tips from us to you to how can you be a sustainable tourist. Include sustainable tourism alternatives in your trip. You can, for example, travel in the off-season, which you guys have done. Another tip is to go green on your hotel. If you stay more than 1 day or two, ask them to not change your sheets and towels every day.
And we hope that you get a lovely stay here in Bergen and enjoy every activities you choose to do.